Hello, my name is Hans George Campbell, and tonight I'm working on my IBM PC 5150 computer. I'm going to use my air compressor to blow the dust out of this case, and then I'm going to spray WD-40 onto a rag and wipe it down, to clean and condition the metal. Then I'm going to take a clean rag and wipe off the excess WD-40, and when I get done, the case will look like brand new. I'm also going to blow the dust from the motherboard and the other boards and the disk drive. So that's what I'm doing tonight. Rubber tip nozzle. Alright, I gotta first remove this. It's one of the, you know what, let me turn the thing this way where I can see better. But yeah, it's one of the things for the longer cord or card, the longer card to slide into. It's made out of plastic. You don't want to get WD-40 on this plastic stuff here. Okay, so you got to remove it. Alrighty. Yeah, still recording. That's good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a rag and we're going to spray WD-40 on it. Pick a clean area, clean area of the rag. About like that should be good. And shake the WD-40 and spray a little bit on there like that. And then, okay, put this rag over here. Put this closer, you can see what I'm doing. And then just wipe her down, and you can see it really cleans the metal and conditions it. So yeah, you want to make sure you clean that really good. And yeah, clean that really good. And yeah, especially the edges, because that's where it can rust the most, is on the edges of the metal. Yeah, I've always liked the cases of the original IBM PC. I always thought they were very nice. Very nice cases. And yeah, just get it all wiped down. And yeah. Just wipe that stuff down. Like that. Yeah, it conditions the metal, gets rid of a lot of the rust. Now, if this was like had some rust or stuff on it, or the case wasn't as nice as it is, you know, I would just wash it in hot soapy water, rinse it, let it dry overnight, and lightly sand it, blow out the dust, and I would just spray paint this. Put a couple of thin coats of a satin black paint. But this case appears to be in really nice shape, so I'm only cleaning it. Just cleaning it with the WD-40, and I think it'll be good enough. Condition that metal. And yeah, I think it's going to be pretty nice. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty nice. Yeah. Might have to put some more WD-40 on here. But you can see how much dirt, because that rag was basically white before. Look how dirty it is now. So yeah, I got to spray some more WD-40 on that. On the clean area, you see how clean it is. There we go. Yep, just clean that. Now you can see it's already starting to look like brand new, just by the little bit of cleaning I'm doing here. Yeah, it's already starting to look like brand new. Yeah. Okay. Trying to get this in here. Sometimes it's not always easy. But I want to get it all clean. And yeah. Get all that cleaned in there. There you go. Looks a lot better than what it did, I can tell you that. Yep, a lot better than what it did. And then once I wipe it down with this wet rag of WD-40, then I'll re-wipe it with the clean rag. Yeah. Wipe down all the excess. Damn it. Get in there, you fuck. Sometimes it's not always easy getting in here. But you gotta do it. You gotta take your time, do a good job, and yeah, I think it'll be okay. Yeah, clean up there, clean all in here. Yeah, clean all that shit. Alright. Clean all in here. Yeah, condition that metal. Oh, I gotta pop this out too. Forgot about this. Forgot about that part. It's made out of plastic. Yeah, pop that part out too. Okay. Now let's do the front. Yeah, do the front. Especially the edges, because that's what can get rust, is the edges. Get all that done. Now it's starting to look brand new again. Look at that. It's starting to look brand new, baby. With around the labels, you don't want to get too much WD-40 on that. On the labels. So yeah. Don't want to get too much WD-40 on the around where the labels are. Yeah. I wipe the labels down with a clean damp sponge. This still has a protective clear covering over it. Yeah. So that looks good. And I already cleaned this part. So the other thing I need to do is to clean the bottom. And I am going to remove these original cork feet. I got special stuff I use for doing that. It dissolves that adhesive. And then I'm going to stick on brand new 2-inch diameter feet. 2-inch diameter feet are hard to get a hold of because most feet are, you know, 3/4 inch to 1-inch diameter. So yeah, yeah, just clean this really good. You know. There you go. The power supply slips into there. The front of the power supply slips into there. Okay. But as you can see, the WD-40 really conditions this metal. Really makes it look really good. Conditions it, keeps it from rusting. You know. Okay. So when I come back, I'll wipe it down with the clean rag. All right. Better If I stand on this side.
Talking to yourself again?
Again, I want to be careful around these labels. I don't want to get any WD-40 on those. Yeah, take care of those labels. I want to keep the original labels, especially the original Computer Land label. I mean, oh my God, when's the last time you've seen one of those labels? Yeah. All right. Okay. Alrighty. Looking good. Yeah, looking good. I like the way it looks. Good. I condition to clean that metal. Clean this here really good. Wipe it down. That. Yeah, it looks like brand new again. I mean, oh my God, look at this. Hell, it looks like brand new again, people. Yeah, it looks like brand new again. That's the way you want it to look. By the time I finish with this computer, it will look brand new again. We're close to it. It's close to being new. That a 44-year-old computer, it's hard to believe this computer is over 44 years old. It's the original IBM PC. And it's still in pretty nice shape. I mean, most computers today, modern computers, you're lucky if they look this good after 10 years. Yeah, this computer is really well made. Of course, all computers from the early, late 70s, early 80s, they were well made. All computers back then were well made. Now, I can't really get, underneath there really good because I can't remove this piece, so I can't really get in there. But it's clean enough. I mean, it looks pretty good. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I clean the metal, I condition the metal, so I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Now, believe it or not, you let this dry overnight. Yes, you'll have to let the WD-40 dry overnight. And tomorrow morning, when you wipe your hands over this metal, it should feel really smooth, like silk to the touch. That's when you know you did a good job. Yeah, the metal should feel smooth, silky smooth to the touch when you let this dry overnight. Now, if there is some light rust anywhere on the case, what you want to do for that is you want to apply on a rag a little bit of distilled white vinegar. And you soak that area with that white vinegar. It has to be distilled white vinegar. And you let it sit on that rust overnight. And what the vinegar does, it will neutralize that rust. It'll keep it from rusting any further. That's right. It'll keep the rust from rusting any further. It'll neutralize it. Yeah. Okay, I think that's about as good as I can do it. It looks pretty good. I mean, a lot better than what it did, I can tell you that. Looks a lot better than what it did, so I think I'm done with this. Looks pretty good. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And after I put the computer back together, I'm going to do it on camera. I'll peel that clear part off the IBM logo. Yeah. So, next I'm going to bring the other stuff out here and I'll be blowing the dust off of them. So yeah, that's coming up next. Okay, so now I have to blow the dust out from off the motherboard, the disk drives, and the rest of these boards here. They're pretty clean, but I usually like to go over them real quick with the air compressor hose, just to make sure there's no dust or anything, especially in the disk drive. You're not going to believe how much these anti-static bags like this cost. They're about $10 each, just for an anti-static bag like this. Yeah, they're not cheap, but they're good quality. There's the board. Okay. Especially important that you blow out the dust from here, from these, and from the IC socket where you plug in your math processor. Yep. These here are your Microsoft Basic ROMs. That's why you didn't see any discs when I showed you the basic loose leaf binder, because the software is in ROM. Okay. I'll seat the chips later. These memory chips here are the same chips that are used in the Commodore 64 computers. It takes 8 of these to make 64K, the same chips. Alright, put the board back into its anti-static bag, so I'm ready to work on it. I have decided that I'm going to replace all the tantalum capacitors, because when boards are like this are 40, 45, they're over 45 years old, right, or 44 years old, these caps are worn out. So it's a good idea to go ahead and recap these boards. Because when tantalums go bad, they short out, and that could do all kinds of damage to like your power supply and to the rest of your boards. So it's a good idea to recap old boards like this. Okay, let's do the disk drive next. First thing I do when I clean the disk drive is I blow it recommend using cans of air. Don't waste your money on that crap. All the damn labels off. Okay. One of the labels that came off. Another one came off down here. So I'll just stick it with the drive. I'll probably take this back on later on. Yeah, I just usually just blow out all the boards. I also take, well, let's turn the air pressure on. I also tend to take 100% cotton makeup pads and 99% alcohol, and I wipe down all the gold-plated fingers on these they're called card edges, because that's the correct term for those. We also call them fingers. I wipe them down so that they stay nice and shiny and they don't corrode. These are actually in pretty nice shape. Now I'm going to take these boards inside to the shop because I want to tell you some very important information, share some very important information to you about some of these boards and what you need to do with these boards. And also the disk drive here. I'm going to tell you some stuff, some important things about the drive. So that's coming up next. Okay. After doing some research, I figured out what this board is. It is often referred to as a six-pack. It is memory expansion. It has 6 banks or 6 rows, 64K per bank, for a total of 384K. And when you add that to the existing 256K that's on the PC motherboard, you get 640K. So it's a memory expansion. It also gives you a parallel port, a game port, and this here is a serial port, 25-pin serial port, that's what that is. And then it gives you a onboard clock. There was a barrel battery here, and the guy told me that the barrel battery had not leaked. Well, it had not leaked onto the 6-pack. But because of the way the board was plugged into the computer like this, the battery did leak a little bit onto the motherboard. And we'll take a look at that next. But the 6-pack board appears to be in good shape. The fingers are even in good shape. I'll wipe those down with a cotton makeup pad, 99% alcohol. We'll get those cleaned up. He just clipped the battery out, but I want to do it proper. I want to actually unsolder those leads, the remaining leads that are left in the board, and clean that part of the board up real good. I'll first take a cotton swab, dip it into some distilled white vinegar, and dab that on, and let that sit overnight. That will neutralize that battery acid, any acid that might be left over on the board. And then the next morning, I'll do a thorough cleaning of this area of the board, both on this side and the opposite side. Now, I don't know why they call this a 6-pack, because This will be 1 pack. That's 2 pack, 3 pack, 4 pack, and the battery backup clock, that'd be 5 pack. So what exactly is the 6th pack? You know, why do they call this a 6-pack? You know, it should be called a 5-pack, you know. So, yeah. Anyway, that's what this board is. Now, it does have some electrolytics. Right here, one blew and actually caught fire. We'll zoom in on that. These two will have to be replaced. In fact, all of these tantalum capacitors here will have to be replaced with electrolytic capacitors. I think they're all over this board. These are not, I don't think these here are tantalums. I think they're your normal filtering capacitors. But the ones that look like that, those are tantalums, and they need to be replaced. And I'll zoom in on one of them, and on that area of the board where they blew. Let me zoom in. We'll take a close look at that. I think it's right there. Yeah. Look at that, the way it blew. Holy crap. Yeah, and when they blow like that, that's extremely dangerous. Yeah. This is what can happen when one of these tantalum capacitors, they short out and they can actually blow. They sound like a damn gun going off when they do. And they do catch fire. You can see how it was burned. And it burned the one right next to it, too. So these will definitely have to be replaced. All these tantalums here will have to be replaced. For this replaced with, you know, just normal electrolytic capacitors, you know. But that's what I have to do on this board. And in fact, all the boards. Anywhere where they have tantalum capacitors, they have to be replaced. Just desolder them and solder on normal electrolytic capacitors with the same value, same voltage, you know. So yeah, that's what's going on with that board. Okay, this is the motherboard of the IBM PC 5150 computer. This motherboard was released in 1981. This is the motherboard that started it all. This was the very first IBM PC. This is the board that started it all, right here. That's the battery from that 6-pack. It had leaked around here. Right around here. I think I got to it just in time because I did clean this with a cleaning brush and 99% alcohol, but I'm going to have to desolder this chip right here. I have to order a brand new chip. Clean the board a lot better and maybe neutralize this area. Just put some distilled white vinegar on a cotton swab and then just dab it on the area, let that sit overnight. It'll neutralize that battery acid, whatever acid that might be left over, you know. And then the next morning, clean this board really good. Might have to replace this socket, or maybe clean that. See how it's green right there on that one pin? I don't know what this socket would be used for. I think it's just an extra socket that's not used. But anyway, I'll solder in a brand new socket here, and I'll plug in a brand new IC in that location right there, and then the board should be fine. I'll reseat the chips. They need to be reseated. These, like I said before, are the same. These are the same memory chips that are used in the Commodore 64 computer. It takes 8 of them to make 64K. They're the same memory chips. And the chips that were in the 6-pack, those memory chips, they're the same chips. In fact, they're the exact same make and model number of the memory chips that I often find in the Commodore 64 computers. So yeah, these here are your Microsoft ROMs. They contain Microsoft Basic, and that's the reason why when I showed you the basic loose leaf binder, you know, in the IBM sleeve, it didn't come with any discs because the software is not on discs. The software is in ROMs, these ROM chips right here. And those are the manual for the software that's on those ROMs. Now, these are your jumpers, okay? This is your socket for a math coprocessor, and I will be installing a math coprocessor into that socket. Yeah. I probably will also be installing, I think it's called a V20 chip. It's like about it's like twice as fast as this chip here. I think it's referred to as a V20 chip. I'll have to do my homework on that, but there is a chip. It's a direct pin-for-pin replacement for the Intel 8088 processor. You remove this processor and you plug that chip in, and it bumps up the speed of your computer to around 8 megahertz. So yeah, I might do that. I don't know, because actually I do want to restore this machine back to original as much as possible. But I don't know. I'm definitely going to put the math coprocessor in, because I want to use the GEM desktop with this computer. With the GEM desktop works beautifully with the early IBM PCs. In fact, GEM, I remember back in the day, GEM was released about 6 months before Microsoft's Windows 1.0. And I remember everyone, including myself, we preferred the GEM desktop. And this really pissed off Bill Gates to the point to where he got on the phone and he cried like a little bitch to Steve Jobs. And of course, Steve Jobs called digital research and jumped Gary killed all shit and sued digital research, forcing them to remove all of the wonderful things that made the original GEM desktop such a marvelous, such a wonderful graphics user interface. And only after Apple computers did that was Bill Gates able to be successful in launching Windows. And now, because of what happened back then, we're all basically forced to use, Windows today. Whereas if Bill Gates had not cried like a little bitch to Steve Jobs, we would all most likely be using some form of the GEM desktop. It was a wonderful operating system. And I have the pre-lawsuit version of GEM desktop. Version 1.6, I'm going to install it on this computer, and I will be showing you guys the graphics user interface that beat the fuck out of Windows 1. Beat the fuck out of Windows. Nobody liked Windows. We all preferred the GEM desktop. I'm going to show you the operating system, the graphics user interface, the GEM desktop, that caused Bill Gates to cry like a little bitch to Steve Jobs. Wah! Wah! Steve, have you seen the GEM desktop? It looks an awful lot like the Macintosh's operating system. You should sue digital research. Get them! Sink them! Wah! Wah! Shut up, you crybaby little bitch. Yeah. And ever since Bill Gates pulled that shit, we had a falling out. I hated that son of a bitch to this very day. You fucking four-eyed nerd motherfucker. I hate your guts ever since you pulled that shit. Before then, I had a little bit of respect for you because you were on to something. And I told you that when we were having lunch. You were on to something. Don't give up, because you were ready to give up. I said, no, you're on to something. First of all, if I was digital research, I would have told both Steve Jobs and you to go fuck yourself. Because both of you dumbasses, you stole that idea for the graphics user interface from Xerox. You both stole the idea from Xerox, and you got away with it because Xerox was not smart enough to copyright that software or that idea. But both Steve Jobs and Bill Gates stole their idea for their graphics user interface from Xerox. And yet Bill Gates had the fucking nerve to cry like a little bitch because somebody else decided to also use a graphics user interface for their systems.
What a crybaby little bitch. And ever since then, I've always hated Bill Gates. And I've always hated Steve Jobs. That smelly, stinky motherfucker. He was the type of person, he did not believe in taking a bath, but maybe once a month. And when he did take a bath, he did not shampoo his hair, so he had a nappy head. I'm serious. I'm telling you what Steve Jobs was like back then. And he didn't believe in using deodorant. Nobody wanted to work around this smelly motherfucker, including me. And him and I almost came to blows one afternoon. Oh yeah, before he got famous, we almost came to blows one afternoon. I would have knocked his fucking ass right out on that goddamn tiled floor. Oh yeah. So I walked in the goddamn management office and said, look, either Steve Jobs has to go or I'm going. And they tell me, well, we need Steve Jobs, so I guess you're going. So that's when I quit. But ever since then, I've always hated Steve Jobs. Always. This motherfucker. I'll tell you something about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, he used people for what he could get out of them, including his best friend, Steve Wozniak. After he was finished using Steve Wozniak, he basically kicked him to the curb, so to speak. Oh yeah. I'll tell you something else about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was such a selfish, self-centered fucking asshole that he didn't even acknowledge the fact that he had a daughter. That's right, he deserted his own daughter. That's the kind of person Steve Jobs was. Okay, I'm telling you the facts now. And apparently he felt guilty about it years later because he named his favorite computer that he designed and built, right? Well, he had his engineers design it. He couldn't design shit. He was a dumbass. Okay, he named that computer after his daughter, Lisa. That's right. Yep. And then he tried to get back into his daughter's life, and he's wondering why his daughter hates his fucking guts. The same reason why the rest of us hated Steve Jobs. You fucking asshole. But I'll give credit where credit is due. When it comes to marketing, Steve Jobs was a marketing genius. He really was. I'll tell you some more shit about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, okay, he actually knew that the Macintosh line was low quality, poorly designed, low quality garbage. Yes, you heard that right. I was there. I know what I'm talking about. I was in that situation. I know what I'm talking about. Steve Jobs knew that the Macintosh line was a poorly designed, low-quality garbage. He even admitted that. Not in public, but behind the scenes. But Apple was too far invested in the Macintosh. They had too much money tied up into that computer system. So Steve Jobs, okay, he knew that normal people, like me and you, normal people would never buy the Macintosh computer. He knew that. Steve Jobs knew that. Normal people, you know, they would never buy the Macintosh computer because they would see it for what it is. A way overpriced piece of garbage. And so normal people never bought the Macintosh computer. We bought the Amiga computer. We bought the Atari ST. We wouldn't even think about touching the Macintosh computer. It was garbage. And we knew that even back then. So what did Steve Jobs do? Okay, this is where I know Steve Jobs was a marketing genius. I will give credit where credit is due. Even though I hate that motherfucker when he was alive, I hated his guts. Most of us did. He was a marketing genius. Because he was able to sell the Macintosh line by doing two things. First of all, he came out with those posters. The Think Different posters. Okay? That portrayed famous people in black and white, usually in black and white, and it had the Think Different logo in color. It's usually in color. As if to insinuate or to give you, you know, the idea that these type of people are the type of people that would use Macintosh. The people that dared to think different. And this marketing campaign worked. It worked. Also, what type of people think different? Because normal people think like normal people. We don't think different. We think like a normal person. So what type of people think different? You guessed it. Yuppies, homosexuals, and absolute dumbasses. And these are the kind of people, even today, these are the kind of people that bought the Macintosh computer and that continue to buy Apple products even today. That's right. Most people that buy Apple products and use Apple products are yuppies and homosexuals and absolute dumbasses. People that think different. People that are filled with bravado or ego. That's right. The people that think different. Because think about it. A yuppie thinks differently. A yuppie person does not think like a normal person. They're full of pride, full of ego. They think they're all that. Oh, look at me. And they're nothing, okay? They think differently. They don't think like normal people. And the same thing with homosexuals. They're fucked up in the head. Don't believe me? Look at these sick woke fucks running around today. Homosexuals definitely do not think like normal people. They think differently. And these are the two groups of people that mainly buy, well, they bought Macintosh back then, and they continue to buy Apple products today. Yuppies and homosexuals. And that's why I made up this saying, only yuppies, homosexuals, and absolute dumbasses buy and use Apple products. This includes the iPhones, the iPads, and the rest of the iCrap. Anyway, I wanted to get that story out of the way. But yeah, because of Bill Gates crying like a little bitch to Steve Jobs, everyone today is now forced to use goddamn Windows, when we could have been using the Gem Desktop. And I do plan on showing you the Gem Desktop real soon. In fact, I'm anxious about showing you the Gem Desktop. It's a beautiful graphics user interface. It really is. Now, those of you that have Atari ST computers, you may think you know the Gem Desktop because the Atari ST also uses the Gem Desktop. But it does not use Gem Desktop version 1.6. And that's the Gem Desktop that I'm going to show you guys. The one that was developed for the PC, the IBM PCs. Now, the only other version of Gem Desktop that I really admire, because it's a colored version of the Gem Desktop with custom icons, and that's the Gem Desktop that was specifically released for the Amstrad PCs. The Amstrad PCs actually have the best version of the Gem Desktop. And for the likes of me, I tried to get that Gem Desktop. I remember back in the day, I tried to get that version of Gem Desktop to run on a normal PC. And I couldn't get it to run. It would not run unless you were running it on an Amstrad PC. So today, I haven't given up. I'm going to figure out what is the difference between an Amstrad PC and a normal PC compatible. Because an Amstrad PC is just a PC compatible. Okay? What is keeping that Gem Desktop that was developed for the Amstrad PC, what is keeping that version of Gem from running on a normal IBM PC compatible? And I think we'll take a look at that problem. We'll solve that problem together in near future episodes. Anyway, let's get back to this motherboard. All of these tantalum capacitors, they will need to be, I think these, all the ones that look weird that stick up like that, those are tantalums. They'll need to be replaced with normal electrolytic capacitors. I believe that's a tantalum. Tantalum over there. Now the ones that look like these near the memory chips, those are normal capacitors. You don't have to replace those. It's just these weird little ones, especially the ones that have 3 leads. definitely replace all of those. Now, if you're ever having problems with an IBM PC motherboard, it could be this relay right here. That's a relay. It may need to be replaced because the contacts might be stuck inside, so keep that relay in mind. So now we're going to take a look at the disk drive, because there's some very important things I need to discuss or talk to you about as far as the disk drive. That's coming up next. All right. Here is the disk drive. Now, the original drives that were in the IBM PC 5150, they were single-sided drives. This here is a double-sided drive, so somebody has upgraded. They removed the original single-sided drive and they replaced it with a double-sided drive. The thing you need to look out for on these drives right here, that tantalum right there is prone to blowing, and when it blows, it will take this choke with it, this coil with it. In fact, when you replace this tantalum with a normal electrolytic capacitors, you want to check that choke and check that coil. Make sure it's not open or shorted. You want to check that coil. And it may need to be replaced too. Yeah, but all these tantalum caps here, the caps that look like that, you really need to replace all of those on this board with normal electrolytic capacitors. Now, during this refurbishment process, I am going to show you guys how to properly refurbish one of these disk drives. Because just about every video on YouTube that I've watched, they show you how to do it wrong. I'm going to show you the correct way to clean and service one of these drives. So stay tuned for that exciting part of this playlist. Anyway, that's it for this first video. Refurbishing my IBM PC 5150 computer. This is part 1. Stay tuned for part 2 coming up real soon. My name is Hans George Campbell, and until next time.